everyone, it's me, Arielle, and it's Wednesday Warriors, and today I'm going to be talking about eating disorders in people with disabilities. And I have to be perfectly honest with you, I don't have a disability, so I don't consider this a topic that I can give perfect advice on, but I have looked some things up, and I will provide you with the information that I have learned myself, and I will give you some resources if this is a topic that is important to you, and I will do my best. Thanks a lot. The first thing that I wanted to say regarding people with disabilities and eating disorders is that a lot of people with disabilities, whether those disabilities be mental or physical, they tend to have low self-esteem. And this is not always the case, and it's certainly somewhat of a stereotype, but it does have a lot of truth to it, just as those people that are classified as having an eating disorder tend to have low self-esteem. It's just pretty much statistically something that I have found to be true, and it does sort of have a note of common sense to it, because those with disabilities, they may feel that they're getting attention for the wrong reasons, or perhaps they are getting attention for the wrong reasons because of their disability and not for other things that they might have to offer. They would then have, in their minds, more reason to compare themselves to others, feel that they don't measure up in some way, which would again lead to low self-esteem, which could lead to an eating disorder. People with disabilities may very easily have the classic traits that predispose them to an eating disorder, like self-esteem. They may want a different way to stand out, something different than their disability, and they might seek to find that through an eating disorder. Or they may want a way to do the opposite and make themselves smaller, take up less space, fade into the background, which could be an eating disorder that they use to starve themselves, to restrict, to weigh less, things of that nature. I had done a little bit of reading about intellectual disabilities and how this is affecting children, not necessarily teens and young adults, but children, and how if they have some sort of intellectual disability, it's actually turning into an eating disorder as they grow up. And just because certain intellectual disabilities, I guess, predispose them to the condition, but I was reading of certain intellectual disabilities where children were chewing and spitting out their food and things like that, things that related to the actual action of eating. And I just thought that that was something pretty interesting, because I had never heard that before. There's an article online that I had seen about it, so I'm going to post the link to that a little bit later on in this video so you can check it out for yourself if you're interested. I also read some things about women and girls with physical disabilities developing eating disorders, and this again is something that might be more common sense and is something that I've heard of before doing some reading on this topic, just because it's somehow a way for them to cope. It's a way for them to gain control when there are certain things in their lives that they don't have control over. It's also a way that they are feeling negative about their appearance, for example. So this all stands to reason to develop an eating disorder. The other thing that I was looking up and researching was that eating disorders can be coping mechanisms for those with learning disabilities. For example, if there is a child or a teenager and they're in school and they have a learning disability, whether it be dyslexia or ADD or speech impediment, whatever the disability, the learning disability might be, they can become very self-conscious about this. They feel like they're not up to par with everyone else, and they might take it out on themselves. They might do something like cut or develop an eating disorder in order to cope. We find very strange ways of coping when we can't deal with certain things in our lives, and unfortunately eating disorders are one of those coping mechanisms, and I can very easily see that individuals with learning disabilities would turn to an eating disorder. One thing that I really want to stress in this video is if you are disabled, whether it be mentally or physically, or whatever you classify yourself, if you are disabled, your resources are the same as anyone else's with an eating disorder. Your resources are the same. Any resources that I would give to any individual out there suffering from an eating disorder are resources that I would give to you if you are a disabled person and you have an eating disorder. There are a plethora of websites out there that have wonderful, wonderful resources on them, whether it be other websites, whether it be actual places you can go for help, whether it be phone numbers, contact information. There are a lot of websites out there where you can contact a person by phone or by email, and you can ask them your specific questions. You can bring up your specific concerns. So if you are a disabled individual, you can ask them specific questions relating to your own individual problem, and they can give you answers to that. You know, we all have different reasons for developing our eating disorders, and if you're disabled, then perhaps that is your reason, or perhaps that's part of your reason. You know, even if it's a small part of your reason for developing an eating disorder. The point is that you can go on from here, and you can find help, and you can find resources, and if your disability was behind your eating disorder, you can put it behind you as well, and you can move on, and you can get past that eating disorder. Okay guys, this is a link to the website that I was talking about a little bit earlier about intellectual disabilities leading to eating disorders as far as chewing and regurgitating food is concerned. So you can find that link at the bottom and click that for more information. It's really a very short article, and it's just very intriguing because I think it's something that I at least haven't come across before, so maybe you'll find it interesting too. And then this next link is girlshealth.gov, and I actually have the link to a specific page about illnesses and disabilities, but if you play around on the site a little bit, there's actually more information on disabilities than are actually there on the page that the link is to. They just give a little bit of information, I believe, on why individuals with disabilities tend to develop eating disorders, and they give more information as far as resources are concerned. And it's just pretty much a great positive page for girls and women to go to. And then this last link is the mental health page for the Something Fishy website, which a lot of you are probably very familiar with. It's actually, I'm looking at it on my computer, it's actually Associated Mental Health Conditions and Addictions, and they do talk about mental health disabilities, other sorts of disabilities. And again, if you browse this site, there are so many different things as far as a treatment finder and recovery reach out and other numbers that you can call, places that you can visit that would have more to do with disabilities coupled with eating disorders than just eating disorders themselves. So I hope you can find these links helpful if that's something that you're looking for. Again, I don't consider myself to have a disability, so this is something that is not my forte, and I'm doing my very best, and I hope that it was useful to you. Have a great week, everybody.